This year's Chuseok full moon is set to rise at 5:32 p.m. on Monday in Seoul, reaching its peak at 11:50 p.m. according to the Korea Astronomy and Space Science Institute.
올해 한가위 보름달은 서울 기준으로 6일 오후 5시 32분부터 볼 수 있으며 보름달이 가장 높이 뜨는 시각은 이날 밤 11시 50분이 될 것이라고 한국천문연구원이 발표했습니다. Now, understandably, depending on where you are in the country, there'll be a bit of a difference in terms of when you can see the moon. So I believe in Busan, it's going to be a few minutes later than in Seoul.
Yeah, it's 5:31 in Sejong.
Okay.
It is 5:24 in Busan, 5:26 in Daegu. Gwangju, it's 5:30, and I think 5:33 in Incheon.
Okay, so it's earlier. You can see it earlier. Well, from it, it's not like a momentary thing, but you can see it from a little earlier down south, and then as we move upwards, we'll be seeing it a little bit later. But that's the moon rising, and then you have ample time to see it.
Yeah, and they're saying the moon actually reaches its fullest phase when it's directly opposite the sun. That's going to be at 12:48 on Tuesday, not Monday, the day after Chuseok.
Okay.
But because this actually happens in broad daylight, the moon actually won't be quite as visible when it's at its absolute fullest.
Yep. But around midnight on Chuseok Day, across the nation, you should be able to see it at its peak in terms of how we can see it, anyhow.
How high it will be in this night sky.
Exactly. But I think any time after around 5:30, 6, 7, 8, you should be able to see the moon, given that the skies are clear. Now, they are saying it's going to be a cloudy night for most areas, and for some of the areas along the East Coast, you might not be able to see it. So it really depends on the weather. But I think hopefully we'll be able to see the moon and make our wishes. Do you usually make a wish?
I've never done that with the moon. I think as kids, we wish upon a star.
Yeah.
But
in the West.
Yeah. I guess in Korea or in Asia, you wish on the moon, the
They
full
do.
moon.
Yeah, that's what they do. All right. Well, the moon is set to rise at roughly around 5:30 on Chuseok Day.
Yeah, when we say like a moon rise, I guess, or a sunrise, it's when it's first visible. So when it comes up when it comes up on the horizon, meaning up above the land, so you can actually see it. And if something is set to rise, then it's kind of scheduled too. There's a time factor of this is when it's going to happen.
그렇죠. 뭐뭐 할 예정이다 is set to. 그리고 뜨다 지다 set. 우리가 the sun
Sunrise and sunset.
그렇죠. 네. 여기 문장 안에 세트도 들어가고 rise도 들어있는데 여기서의 세트 의미는 그 이제 지다의 의미가 아니라 뭐뭐 할 예정이다의 의미죠. is set to rise. 그러면 뜰 예정이다가 되겠고요. 만약에 질 예정이다 하면 is set to set. 이렇게 하면 되겠네요. The sun is set to set. 근데 물론 이렇게 잘 쓰진 않겠죠. 왜냐하면 똑같은 단어를 붙여서 쓰는 거 영어 별로 좋아하진 않지만 해도 돼요. That would make sense, even though it's not that natural sounding.
It would be done deliberately if you were to do it like that.
그러네요. 네, 그래서 sunset, sunrise 하는 것처럼 moon 또 rise하고 set 한다고 표현을 할 수 있을 것 같고요. The Chusok full moon is set to rise at around 5:30 in Seoul, and I think you said Incheon earlier on, around 5:20 in the Busan area. So depending on where you are, it's going to be around that time.
A few minutes of discrepancy.
맞아요. And it'll reach its peak just before midnight.
Yeah, and when you reach a peak, then that is the highest that it's going to go. We often talk about mountain peaks, and that is the highest point of a mountain. When we talk about a summit is like the highest point as well by elevation, but a peak is like sort of like the triangular point at the top of something. So in the same way, the highest point that the moon will reach in the sky, that's going to be the peak.
The peak, P-E-A-K는 가장 높은 점. 그래서 그 정점에 이르는, 가장 높은 점에 이르는 시간을 얘기하고 있습니다.
And remember earlier we talked about reaching an all-time high.
Yeah.
So same thing here, we're reaching its peak in this case as well.
Exactly. Well, here's the headline again. This year's Chusok full moon is set to rise at 5:32 p.m. on Monday in Seoul, reaching its peak at 11:50 p.m., according to the Korea Astronomy and Space Science Institute. Let's move on to the next headline.
NASA has unveiled the next generation of U.S. astronauts who could take part in landmark missions, returning to the moon and eventually landing on Mars.
미 항공우주국 나사가 앞으로 달 탐사 재개와 화성 착륙 등 주요 임무를 수행할 새 우주비행사 후보 10명을 공개했습니다. All right, so we have new astronauts who could go back to the moon. Tell us more.
They had 8,000 applicants going after these 10 spots. And I found it very interesting how they chose these people. There's a lot of different interesting stipulations. You have to have a master's degree in a STEM field. I was like, STEM field? I wonder what that is. I was able to guess science technology for the ST and engineering for the E. I was thinking, what is M?
Mathematics.
I thought it might have been medicine. But then I was like, nope, it's mathematics.
Yeah.
So, all the different scientific fields, so makes sense. Typically, they don't have an actual age restriction or requirement, but typically, the successful candidates have been between 26 and 46 years of age. And here's something I found interesting is how much do you think an astronaut earns?
Ooh.
In this case, the salary for astronauts is $152,000, a little bit more. So that turns out to be, I think, a little bit over eok in Korean money.
나사 아스트로노트가 되기 위해서는 일단 미국 시민권이 있어야 되고요. 그 다음에는 스템 분야에서 석사 학위가 있어야 되고, 이 관련된 어떤 경력, 그게 있거나 아니면은, 또 관련된 학위, 또 인정된다고 합니다. 그 외에도 여러 가지 체력적인 부분들도 당연히 보겠죠. 그래서 연령대가 지정이 돼 있진 않지만 합격자들을 보면은 대체적으로 한 26살에서 46살 사이 정도가 된다고 합니다. 평균 연봉은 한 2억 정도가 되고요. Alright, so we have 10, I think, new American astronauts. This is the new generation. What does next generation mean?
A generation is usually a group, it could be a group of people or a group of something, and they're kind of all in the same boat together, usually by time. So when we talk about generations, we often hear millennials or Gen Z or Gen X, baby boomers. It's a group of people that kind of grew up at the same time and sort of relate to the same things in terms of culture by the time. That, of course, as I mentioned, that's the generation of people and how they grew up. In this particular case, it's the next generation of astronauts.
Yeah.
So this generation of astronauts that was hired together in the same time period. This is the next generation or the new generation of astronauts. So usually a group of people or what have you that's separated by time.
그래요. generation은 세대니까 the next generation, 차세대. The next generation of astronauts, 차세대 우주 비행사. Now what about landmark mission? What does that mean?
So a mission is obviously something that you're trying to achieve. They want to go to the moon or they want to go to Mars. This is a goal of theirs. That's the mission that they're trying to do. So what's a landmark mission? when you think of a landmark is something that's visible or recognizable or something that everyone knows or would recognize. So the missions here, it's not going to be just go to the space station or something that people aren't going to pay attention to, but these are going to be headline grabbing missions. So mission to Mars or the mission to the moon. These are going to be things that people are going to be talking about and take notice of.
landmark mission은 역사적인 임무라는 뜻이에요. 보통은 mission이라는 명사 앞에 어떠한 미션인지 형용사가 붙죠. 그래서 landmark mission. 그런데 여기서 궁금증이 생길 수 있거든요. 영화 제목 Mission Impossible 같은 경우에는 Why isn't it called Impossible Mission? Why is it called Mission Impossible? 이 순서가 좀 궁금하실 수 있죠. 이땐 왜 그러냐면은 그냥 불가능한 임무라는 뜻이 아니라 이 미션의 official title 같은 거죠. 그래서 Team Korea 하듯이 Korean team 그러면은 한국의 팀이지만 Team Korea 그러면 한국 국가대표의 어떤 이제 팀 타이틀이거든요. 그것처럼 Mission Impossible 그러면 이 임무의 이름이 불가능인 거예요. 좀 이해가 되실지 모르겠어요.
No, I think you explained it perfectly. Yeah.
So that's what it is. When you have the adjective after the name, you're not just saying this is a mission that is impossible. This is the name of the mission.
It's a title.
It's a title.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing I remember about landmarks, I don't know if it's like this as much anymore, but when I first came to Korea in 2000, I remember every neighborhood had a landmark.
Oh.
So, like, if you went to Hongdae, if I was going to meet someone in Hongdae, there was a particular chicken restaurant that we all met at.
Yeah.
If I was going to meet someone in Gangnam, at Gangnam Station, there was a record store that we all met in front of.
And in Apgujeong, there was this fast food store that everyone went to.
Yeah, same as in Sinchon. So those were like landmark places. So like when you were going to meet, it's like, okay, let's meet here. And it's a landmark that kind of helped you get your bearings or that everyone knew about. This is the place to go to. And it's just famous places that everybody knows.
I think another reason we had those things and people don't do or talk about those so much these days is because back then we didn't have smartphones.
Yeah.
So there was no way to contact someone else once you were there. So you had to make sure that a specific location was had been decided on and everyone was going to meet there. But these days, you can meet anywhere because you have smartphones. You say, I'm in the blue building next to the convenience store or whatever. So
it's so much easier because back in those days, I think nobody knew where things were in terms of addresses. Like as real estate agents might have known, but if you knew the address of a place in Korea, it was difficult to find.
Yeah.
I think compared to other places in the world. But like you said, now with a smartphone, if you punch in the address on a map, then it's easy to find now.
Exactly. 그래요. 스마트폰 없던 시절에는 진짜 이렇게 각 지역마다 랜드마크급의 어떤 이제 상점이 하나씩 있어가지고 거기서 보자. 그리고 전화기 없이 그냥 다 거기서
And it was always crowded.
맞아요. 엄청 사람들이 거기 많이 몰려 있어서 마냥 기다리고 그럴 때가 있었죠. 자, 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어보겠습니다. NASA has unveiled the next generation of US astronauts who could take part in landmark missions, returning to the moon and eventually landing on Mars. Now let's move on to the final headline.
A German man has won more than 15 million euros in the lottery after discovering a forgotten ticket in his coat pocket 6 months after he bought it.
6개월 전에 구매한 뒤 잊고 있던 복권을 코트 주머니에서 뒤늦게 확인한 한 독일 남성이 1,500만 유로, 우리 돈으로 250억 원이 넘는 당첨금을 받게 됐습니다. How lucky! Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so he bought the ticket, I guess, in winter or early spring, and then he had kind of forgotten about this for spring and summer. And there were like poster campaigns because the lotto company were trying to find this person. He'd even noticed the posters, but never even thought to think that he had this ticket because it was in one of his jacket pockets that he didn't really have available. until the weather started to get colder. And because of it's getting colder, he pulled out this jacket and realized, oh, wait, what's this in my pocket?
Yeah.
It's the winning lottery ticket.
Yeah, well, I mean, initially he didn't know it was the winning one. I think
Yeah.
he checked the numbers just for fun, and then he went, oh, okay, that's the same number. And what? I've won! And he was shocked.
15 million euros. My wife came up with a great hack for lotteries. And I thought this was actually quite brilliant because, first off, you can't win the lottery if you don't have a ticket.
Sure.
But at the same time, you don't want to spend too much money on lottery tickets. If you're spending like $10 or $20 every week on lottery tickets, then you're going to lose a lot of money if you don't win. So the key is if you want to win, it's not about winning that makes you feel good. It's the dream. Like, oh, what would I do if I won? So what she would do is she would buy a $1 ticket and then just not look at it for like almost a year. And then because if you confirm that you didn't win, now the dream's over. You woke up from the dream. But if you just don't check, I could still have the winning lottery ticket.
She could end up in the news like this person.
And you will have only spent $1 for a year to be allowed to dream.
Oh, wow.
I thought that was brilliant.
That is quite brilliant. All right. Let's have a look at winning something in the lottery.
Yeah, in this case, they won more than 15 euros in the lottery. If you have a ticket, a lottery is when one or a small number of people or things are selected out of a large group. So you have millions of tickets out there, but this one is the winner, and that's winning a lottery.
Win 얼마 in the lottery. 복권에서 얼마에 당첨되다. Well, this was a forgotten ticket.
Which is a ticket that you haven't thought about. You forgot about it. You bought it, you have it, but it's not on your mind anymore. So it's something that you don't think about.
잊어버렸던 티켓, 잊고 지냈던 복권. 그런 뜻이 되겠네요. 다시 읽어보겠습니다. A German man has won more than 15 million euros in the lottery after discovering a forgotten ticket in his coat pocket 6 months after he bought it. Well, that's it for the headlines with Jason Lee.